Coming up next on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell. We've got Ron Richards, Wintwit Dow, and Michelle Rahman. And there is a ton of news to talk about tonight. Probably should have cut it down a little bit, but somehow we got the show done in time. So, I don't know. You figure that out. Google layoffs. We got Twitter API fallout. Android 13 stats so good that Win can't help but talk about it now. Also, a use for that Stadia controller, a look at the TicWatch Pro 5, Google's Grogu tracker, plus your feedback, and like I said, a whole lot more than just that. Next on All About Android. Also, don't forget, our annual survey is going strong. We don't want to miss your feedback here. So go to twit.tv/survey23. You can take that survey now. The last day to take the survey is actually January 31st. So it's about a week from now. The survey really helps us to understand our audience. That's you. So we can make your listening experience even better. It'll only take a couple of minutes. So go to twit.tv/survey23 to take it. And we really appreciate that you do that. Thank you.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 614, recorded Tuesday, January 24th, 2023, Nord to nothing. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/twit to check out the pod cover and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU and Australia. And by Tanium. Tanium unites operations and security teams with a single platform that identifies where all your IT data is, patches every device you own in seconds, and implements critical security controls, all from a single pane of glass. Are you ready to protect your organization from cyber threats? Well, learn more at tanium.com/twit. And by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW, who can help you consolidate and manage all your data in one flexible edge-to-cloud platform to scale and innovate. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. Hello and welcome to All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Wintwit Dow.
You gotta love the hand gestures.
And in the fourth corner,
I'm Michelle Rahman.
There we go. We had to complete the Voltron. How you all doing? It's good to see you. Ron, thank you for covering last week with the help of Flo and Father Robert. Of course, you guys.
It was a fun show. I'm sorry that everyone had so little to say. But we'll do better next time. No, it was a blast. It was great. Anytime with Padre and anytime with Flo is great. And I feel like we really closed the book on CES.
Yes, I think we don't have to talk about CES anymore.
Yep.
No, that was fantastic coverage of
don't you know,
CES
you can never escape CES. The moment CES ends, you're getting invites to the next CES.
Oh, geez.
It's the worst.
It's just like Android
seconds afterwards.
It's just like Android versions. The second the new one is officially out, we start getting hints of the beta of the next version. There's never any rest. That's how it all ties in.
Well, we can report back to it though. I mean, and we got some 14 news for you, but we can check in with 13, see how it's doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's right, because the Google hasn't released official distribution numbers in quite a while. I think, was it August or something like that, since the last report. But they did very recently talk about the distribution of Android 13 on devices, and it looks like 13 is sitting at a healthy 5.2% of all devices within 6 months of launch. I know nominally 5% doesn't seem like a lot, but I think considering that, that's with efforts from Samsung, OnePlus, and Sony, that's not so bad. And there's some other interesting things to note as well. 12 and 12L, they aren't distinguished in these numbers, but 12 and 12L sit at 18.9%. 11 is at 24.4%. 10 is at 19.5%. And 9 is at 13.2%. I think they even mentioned KitKat. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. I love that you're diving. I love that you're diving right into it.
So excited, Win. These numbers are so exciting.
Wait a minute. Are we in the news?
I think somehow we're in the news. I think
we're in the news, Burke. I think we're in the news.
Oh my God! I thought it was a segue, Jason. I was ready. I am gonna.
It was a great
You
segue.
were. It was a fantastic segue.
I don't mind not doing the news.
Yeah,
trust me.
we don't have to at this point.
I think we're in the news, Burke.
Okay,
the
here we go.
news.
Here we go. We're going into the news web.
No,
Sorry.
I can't do it.
Just do it, Burke.
Oh my God!
Now
I
it's
just
your
went off.
turn. Show us your brilliance.
It's always our intent to do news and bring it to you well here on Android News.
I respect the energy of being so excited to get
I
get
love
a
it.
breakdown, numbers breakdown. We love our numbers. It's great, Win. So I'm sorry. Please tell us about KitKat.
No, I was like segue. That was such a good segue. I thought you didn't
was
hand
great.
it to me. I was like, I saw my moment to do like a really smooth segue.
Love it.
What on
I
earth
love
was
that you went
talking
for it.
about?
I love it.
So apparently KitKat has finally fallen off the map. It looks like adoption of all the releases of Android are kind of going at a really steady pace. 13, of course, again, is doing well. I personally didn't get 13 on my Samsung until like last month. So I think considering that we have a lot of OEMs and their various flavors of 13, having to come at disparate times, 5.2% is not bad.
Although, anyone looking at the number will automatically be like 6 months, 5.2%.
Yeah.
I mean, what I did not take the time to do, which I wish that I had, is compare, again, keep some sort of a running list of previous versions and, some sort of comparable timetable so we know, like, is Android 13 actually doing better than Android 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 at 6 months in? Is 5.2% good, comparatively speaking? Or is that number always going to get smaller because we're always going to have more Android version numbers in the rear view? Does that make sense? Maybe, Michelle, maybe you have some insight onto this because I know you probably follow these things a little bit closer than I have.
It's hard to determine that because, like, the percentage will shrink because there's going to be more and more users who are getting Android smartphones for the first time. And like the budget segment is continuously growing, much faster than like the flagship segment. So you're getting a lot of users who are buying maybe devices that are running Android 10 or Android 11. And so like even though Android 13 is coming out and it's like releasing the flagship devices, you're getting people who are buying new devices that are on those older versions, and that's like skewing the percentages. And we really have no way of knowing that. Like the only people who would be Google because they can actually track the statistics, but they only give us what they give us, and that's that chart in Android Studio.
They used to give us a whole lot more. Now they do not. Now it's like,
They used to do it monthly.
Yeah,
but at least they give us
exactly.
it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, and like percentage wise, so what is the number of active Android devices? I think, okay, I'm Googling real quick. It's like 3 billion active devices, right? 5% of that is, hold on. Oh my gosh. Google, 100, wait, how many zeros? 1 billion? Wait, what's 5% of 3 billion now? Like 100 million something? I can't.
I don't
This
do
calculator doesn't have commas. I'm
show.
sorry. I'm like kind of
Right.
5% of what?
150
Yeah.
million. 150 million. That's 150 million devices. Come on.
No, it's 200.
also
That's 250
excludes-
million. It's
250 million.
250 million.
Keep in mind that 3 billion active also excludes every single Android device in China. So there's
that's
like
right.
several hundred million there to add to it.
Yeah.
So,
Good point.
so yeah, like the number seems small, but I would say between 150 to 200 million is pretty dang good. And wait till, and then, I mean, I guess we can always like take a look at, as you said, Jason, maybe track where we're going to be with 13 next year, or rather later this year when 14 comes out. Now, we do have some, 14 news for you, of course, as we said. Once the one is out, we're always talking about the next stop on the train. And so we have a couple of things we can talk about with Android 14. I'm going to start with the report, or rather this kind of article by our very own Florence Ion on Gizmodo, reporting that Android 14 could prevent you from installing ancient apps. This is not a huge deal. Basically, this is kind of along the vein of, Android and Google just basically not letting you let your apps get out of date. We've talked already about how Android and the Google Play Store are kind of tightening, the specifics of, what version you should be targeting and like when you should be updating and what happens to your app on the App Store if it doesn't happen. So this is more just codifying it in Android 14. And basically the interesting part is that if your app is targeting through Android 6, which by the way is Android Marshmallow, which was released in 2015, it's just going to be blocked. Now this could hurt folks that are like to sideload their dear and their old and dear, apps and things like that. But this is not really out of that. It's not really a surprise. And I mean, really, this is about securing the platform, because obviously, if an app is targeting before Marshmallow, which is when all of that permissions request came in, then there's a bigger pool of exploits and looser security measures that bad actors can swim in. So that's one thing. Now, another thing that was really cool, and I really love this, was found and reported on by our very own Michelle Ramon, and it's about something that is really, useful, but has had kind of a checkered usability in the past of Android, and that's the share menu. So, Michelle, over to you. What did you find out about the share menu in Android 14?
Thanks, Wynn. So first of all, a caveat. I don't know for sure if this change is going to land in Android 14 for everyone. You can see bits and pieces of it in the Android 13 QPR betas. So I'm just like telling you what I found and just saying, hey, this could be coming in Android 14 or it could be coming in Android 15. Who knows? So basically the share sheet, as you know, whenever you go to share something, like you open your file browser app and you go to your meme folder and you want to hit the share menu and you want to share it to your friend on, Facebook, right? That share menu experience is going to vastly differ depending on what application you use and what device you use. So a lot of apps like Facebook, Twitter, Chrome, etc., they all use their own custom share menu. And then you have the share menu, the system share menu that's on Android on your Pixel phone. It looks different than what's on the share menu on Samsung phones or OnePlus phones. So if you use a lot of different phones or use a lot of different apps, chances are you have absolutely zero muscle memory of like what buttons you got to press when you want to share something. And that's kind of annoying, right? Because a lot of people use the share menu all the time. You want to share photos, videos, links, etc. between apps, like something you do every single day, multiple times a day. So the problem, or at least like one of the root problems that causes this share menu inconsistency is that
they want to play with us. They want to mess with us. They want to make the experience horrible for us.
Sorry.
Right? Is that what you're going to say?
Well,
sometimes that's how it feels.
Good reason. It's a bit of a long-standing like design problem. So like app developers have good reason to want to use their own custom share menu. They're able to prioritize their own share targets ahead of anything else. They're able to design, implement certain custom things that you can't do in the system one. And then you have the system share menu, which is designed and customized by OEMs. And that's one of the big problems that causes inconsistency. The share menu isn't updatable like outside of the Android OS. So what Google is working on is they're working on unbundling that from the OS into a separate app called Intent Resolver. And by unbundling it and potentially turning it into a Project Mainline module, I'm sure you've heard that term before, they'll be able to update it through Google Play system updates. So through the Google Play Store, as with any other Project Mainline module. So the idea is if they unbundle it and make it updatable, then they could both make it consistent and same experience across all devices. And then hopefully if they extend it and add additional features that want to make developers drop their own custom share menus, then you'll have the same share menu experience across devices and across apps. So that's a long-term goal. This is just the first step. They're trying to make it unbundled. They're testing it. First of all, like it's not even a guarantee this is actually going to become a new module in Android 14, but there's a lot of like, this is the laying the groundwork for fixing the share sheet experience. And if you want to learn how the share sheet experience works, what I mean by unbundling, what intents are, all that jazz, like go read the article. It's really long. It goes over all the background and hopefully explains everything you need to know.
Yeah, it's on esper.io on the blog, and then we'll link to it in our show notes at twit.tv/AAA. The share menu, gosh, I feel like, wasn't there big news like a couple of years ago where it was like, yeah, the share menu, it's going to get more consistent.
I was just
I feel like we hear this every 2-3 years and it never happens.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll actually happen this time. We can only hope, because it can be very frustrating. Every app has a different thing. It's like, wait a minute, I have that pinned up. Why is that not up at the top? Oh, because it's not pinned up over here. It looks completely different. Some of them are like night and day difference. Like some of them are very similar to each other, but not quite perfect match. And then others are just completely out of the water.
So Android 12 forced apps through the official share menu. So I feel like that's got to be the last time we talked about it. Was like everyone's going to use the same share menu, right? Like wasn't that like it was a unification or a like commonality of everybody that's sharing.
Yeah, I think that was the hope. Was great, we're finally the share menu mess is over.
I think I've been on many teams where we just, because of the inconsistency, we just make our own.
Because that's what everybody else is doing, right? Like,
why? It's not great, yeah.
Ron, the Android 12 thing. Just to correct that, the Android 12 thing you're referring to was forcing everyone to not replace the system share menu. It didn't force apps to use the system share menu. It was kind of a fixing this little thing that power users like to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that things actually get fixed. Or at least more consistent, because it is a glaring thing that I don't know, maybe it's just annoying to people who, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's like a power user or a kind of an Android fan would notice these things, but a regular Android user is like, I don't care. Like it pulls up a thing and I find the thing I want to share it to. Right. It's there in the list somewhere. I don't know what, that could be easier. Who cares? Yeah. Anyways.
Who knows? Well, I'll tell you something that's broken that needs to get fixed, and it's Twitter. So following up on last week's conversation, at my dismay at finding out that Talon stopped working, and a lot of our complaints was the fact that third-party developers with apps like Tweetbot and Talon and you name it, were all frustrated that all of a sudden their apps one Thursday or Friday night stopped working. Twitter, since last week's show, Twitter has actually updated their developer agreement to spell out their restrictions, specifically on third-party client development, and they added the following text to the restriction section: quote, use or access the licensed materials to create or attempt to create a substitute or similar service or product to the Twitter applications. So if there was any ambiguity as to whether it was officially turned off third-party applications or not, it's right there in the agreement, which is just unbelievably frustrating and a huge bummer, and hope that they turn that around at some point.
I just don't know that that's going to happen. Yeah, and tweeting out, and as we're showing right here, Twitter is enforcing its long-standing API rules. That may result in some apps not working. Some apps, like Twitterific, just as one example, 16-year-old app suddenly discontinued. It's just,
it's
so
sad.
It's sad, right? Like it's
sad.
I mean, and I guess if you're a developer and the thing you develop is a service around another service, like you are taking a risk as a developer when you do that. There is no guarantee that in perpetuity your business is going to be able to survive, because the business that is built on top of might do exactly this. So this reminds me of the great Facebook game purge. Remember that? Yeah,
totally. All these Facebook games, and one day Facebook's just like, nope. And so like when you build a business based on someone else's platform, you run the risk of having them turn it off. And that's exactly what's happened here. And it's a bummer. And because we never thought it would happen to Twitter, because Twitter was so for the people and blah, blah, blah. And now it's all over. So.
Yeah.
It's definitely a bubble. And it's so crazy to me. It feels like, and look, I'm just an engineer. I'm not a business analyst. I'm not a product person. I'm not a strategist, but I feel like social media and things that are networking kind of thrive off integrations and being able to hook into things that people actually use or things that people like to use or prefer to use. Either way, they're still using Twitter. So I understand that if someone's like, and I think the wording was like, and has been, if you're replicating the core like business functionality, that's a no-go. But I don't know. I think there was a lot of good points to be made about how, and this happens a lot in especially app development where third-party clients or, other folks that utilize your APIs come up with functionality that you didn't think about before. And then you get to, kind of subsume that, consume that, or take that in, or I mean, even from just like an idea generation machine, like third-party clients can be really valuable. I mean, and like Twitter has other monetization things. Again, I'm not an expert. I hate this. Basically, TLDR, I hate this a lot. So good luck, Twitter. But yeah, I mean, it's just a bummer. And I keep thinking about a friend of mine, Joaquin Vergez. He did Falcon Pro back in the day in Twitter, and he ended up going to work at Twitter. And like a lot of these other like things that are part of Twitter culture came from third-party clients. So anyway, ear lost, Twitter. My bad. Just angry dev. Ignore me.
Phoenix no long, is pulled. The developers pulled that from the Play Store.
I mean, Huyn makes a great point that a long-standing recruitment tool for companies like Twitter have been third-party developers who are doing that. Now you're just basically closing that all off, so it's just a huge bummer. So.
It is.
Yep.
Huge. Yeah. It's just like as a company, they have the right to do this. The way it was done was just really gross and icky. Michelle, what were you going to say?
What Twitter clients did y'all use?
Well,
Talon. 100%. I only used Talon for years.
I've used a lot of third-party Twitter clients, but I will say in the past probably 3 years, it's been the first party. It's been the Twitter created app. At a certain point, I just kind of switched to it.
I stuck with Talon up until the bitter end. Talon was my ride or die. I love that app, and the native Twitter app just drives me a little batty. Like what was great about Talon is it kept the timeline and there was no algorithm. It was great.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Anyway, yes.
Okay. That's so unique. That's really unique.
Not
That's
disturbing
really
the user experience. That's such a great idea. Not like disrupting someone's like reading flow. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm stopping now.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got one last piece of news before we hit our break and then head into hardware. Google, like many other tech companies, is cutting its workforce. 12,000 jobs slashed. The largest layoff, according to Ron Amadio at Ars Technica, in the company's history. 12,000 jobs, which is, I mean, that's a lot of people. Yeah. I don't know how many people are employed by Alphabet in sum or in total, but I imagine this is a small percentage of it, but still 12,000 jobs is a lot. Many of those jobs coming from, or at least a large percentage coming from Area 120, which we've talked about on the show many times. That's their kind of like experimental incubator where they play around with new app ideas and lots of weird, funky things. In fact, I think J.R. Raphael had a tip or two in the last couple of months from the Area 120 incubator project. So Stack, Tables, ThreadByte, Checks, a bunch of apps that, some of them you may not have ever heard of. So no surprise that they're kind of canceling out a lot of those projects. Some of them that you heard. I know we've talked about Stack on this show from time to time. Also, Fuchsia OS team got hit, losing 16% of its team. Fuchsia's always been this kind of like question mark thing year after year after year. We're like, wait a minute, why did Google create this again? Was it to replace Android? That may have been in the beginning kind of the discussion, but that's obviously not what their plan is, or at least it hasn't come to fruition yet. They're starting to implement and integrate the OS into some of their products that they're shipping and everything, but it's still very kind of curious as far as what that actually is. So what does a 16% hit actually mean for Fuchsia? Time will tell. Yeah.
Did you, I heard one thing and I'll share it, Burke. It's in the, I threw it in our chat and Slack. It was basically, at least in Google, New York City, people were finding out based on, whether or not their key card worked or not. Oh, that morning. So the emails went out the emails went out at 7 a.m. But if you didn't check your work email until you got to the office,
oh my goodness!
If you did it flashed green or flashed red, like that was like a real thing that was happening. So that's a bummer.
That's not
that is a bummer.
Yep. But I reached out to, I have some friends at Google and that sort of thing, and like it did the like at 11 a.m. like, are you okay? Just to see if there's a bounce back, and luckily folks, YouTube wasn't impacted, so folks I know at YouTube and stuff like that seem to be okay. But I mean, a layoff is never easy. It's never fun. A layoff of this size is just demoralizing. It's just, and like what's interesting also is I saw another article that was talking about the reaction of Googlers inside, where there was a lot of, like internal conversation and and their chat, things and things like that. And people were like, well, what was the decision factor? Who decided who went and who cut? Like Googlers were asking for answers and like calling out Sundar and calling out the other senior management who were like saying this is never hard. And they were like wanted, some conversation about, who got laid off and why and what the business justifications were. Whether or not they were provided those, I doubt it because of the legalities of it. That conversation was indeed happening. So, yeah.
Well, that's disappointing, and I'm sorry to anyone impacted by these layoffs. I mean, it's just
a bummer.
Yeah, and it's widespread right now. We have some hardware news to talk about here in a moment, but first, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, brought to you by 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep is super cool or warm. 8 Sleep is warm if you like to sleep warm, or it's cool if you like to sleep cool. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is the ultimate sleeping machine. And boy, it is a machine. It's a machine that powers your sleep. It's awesome. Consistent good sleep can help reduce the likelihood of serious health issues, decrease the risk of heart disease, lower blood pressure, even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. So if you are someone who struggles to fall asleep, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night, or you argue with your partner over the thermostat, the 8 Sleep pod cover works for you all night long to improve your sleep so that you don't have to. And it works individually, right? In my house, I'm the one who wants to sleep super warm. That's just how I feel comfortable. It's how I feel safe. I like to be warm in my bed. That's my comfort zone. My wife, she likes things cooler, so the room is very cool. She's got one blanket instead of a blanket and a duvet and everything. We sleep very differently, and that's what makes 8 Sleep so awesome. I can keep my side of the bed warmer so that I'm happy, and she can keep her side of the bed cooler, and she's happy. We both get our way. It's a little challenging when our 9-year-old daughter comes and sleeps in the middle of the bed, because then she's getting a little of both, but she doesn't seem to care. The pod cover fits on any mattress. It allows you to adjust the temperature of your sleeping environment. That gives you optimal temperature that gets you the best night's sleep. Now, the pod cover features dual zone temperature control. That's what I'm talking about. So you and your partner can set your sides of the bed to as cool as 55 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Based on your biometrics, your environment, and your sleep stages, the pod cover makes temperature adjustments throughout the night that limit wake-ups and increase your percentage of deep sleep. So it knows how to adjust the temperature over time so you don't wake up in a sweat, even though you went to sleep really warm. It's really cool that way. In addition to its best-in-class temperature regulation, the pod cover has sensors that also track your health and your sleep metrics without the need to use any wearable devices. Better sleep is the health habit that you're going to love sticking to night after night. You'll wake up fully energized when you get the pod cover, so you can tackle whatever life throws at you. You already know, like, getting good sleep, that power that supercharges you for the next day. It's just that powerful. Go to 8sleep.com/twit. You can save $150 at checkout on the pod cover. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU, as well as Australia. So check it out. You're going to love what you see here. It's technology that helps you get better sleep. And what's better than that? 8sleep.com/twit. We thank 8 Sleep for their support of this show. All right. That's cool hardware, but we've got more cool hardware right now in a segment we like to call hardware. We lovingly refer to as hardware.
I was going to try to speed over you, Jason, and go right into the first hardware segment.
I was holding back.
Hardware bumper, but I didn't try hard.
I don't know.
Enough,
Maybe it's a new format. Maybe the top story of every block is discussed before the bumper, and then the bumper, and then the last two stories.
So
just don't put me first in the block ever again.
So some interesting rumors or kind of stuff coming to light, and the fact that Google apparently is working hard on a tracker device, codename, and I question the legality of this, but codename Grogu, according to leaker Kuba Wojciechowski on Twitter. Grogu, which, if you know, if you've been living under a rock or not, is the name of the young Yoda-esque child on The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So this tracker device would be a competitor to Apple AirTags and Tile trackers, and it's possibly coming in assorted colors with an onboard speaker. Could support Bluetooth LE and UWB, and both the Pixel 6 Pro and Pixel 7 Pro support UWB, and it could be released this fall when they do their consumer hardware releases. Who knows? We'll see. I do find it interesting, though, because I feel like the only time I ever see Apple AirTags talked about in the news, it's in the context of someone's baggage being stolen or someone stalking someone or like in some negative capacity. And I get why Google would want to do this, because if Apple's doing it, keep up with the Joneses, and Tile's been around forever. Like, didn't Tile sponsor the show years ago, or was that another one?
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
Years and years ago, we had a sponsor of the show that was one of these tags.
It wasn't Tile. God, man, who was it? Because I have them in my office actually. The
all about Android.
Smart
We had the
tags
sticker, the personalized ones,
yes,
right?
the personalized ones. Tracker.
That's what it was.
Tracker without the E.
It's like TRACKR. Tracker.
So like, and I think Tile got bought by Life 360, I believe, if memory serves. But so this is an established market space of like little dongles that allow you to track your stuff, and so Google's just getting into it and just another piece of the consumer ecosystem. But I do feel like the only time I hear about this is it's like in some weird negative capacity. So
what kind of negative things does it empower? Michelle, what you got?
So I think what's more interesting about the story is not the Google tracker itself, because there are already trackers on the market, right? What's more interesting is that Google is working on integrating locator tag / tracker support into FastPair. And so FastPair, as you all know, is what we just talked about. It's a service that's part of Google Play Services. And if you don't know, Google Play Services is available on the 3 billion plus Android devices that we talked about earlier in the show. So that's the more significant aspect of this news. The fact that Google is not only working on their own Tile competitor, but they're also working on tracker support within FastPair. And that could enable a network of 3 billion Android devices to track, the location of other Android devices or accessories or, whatever. Because one of the big problems that Tile has is that they don't have the network that Apple does. Nobody does. Only Google could do that with its, Google Play Services network. And we're waiting on them to unveil that. And so when that happens, finally, we'll have something that's on the level of Apple's Find My network.
Well, I feel this isn't the first time that we've heard about the tracking or tracker device or whatever you want to call it, implementation into Android. Did you write about this, Michelle? Like, I want to say like a few months ago?
I wrote about it. I think it's over a year ago now.
It was.
They've been working on this for a while. They've been working on creating a Find My device network, or it might be called the Finder network. So I think they're going to start with Android phones supporting, based on what I've seen in Google Play Services, and then they're going to expand support for FastPair accessories like these Tile trackers. So you have these devices that would ping each other, and then they'd store their last known location, and then if you spot a stolen device or a lost device nearby, then you could probably track that. And then later on, you'd add support for Bluetooth trackers that work with FastPair, and then you'd have these trackers that also tap into that network. And so none of this has been released yet. Like, we're still, we have no idea how far away we are. Like, it could be this I/O, it could even be next I/O. Like, who knows? We've just been waiting so long, and there's no real clear indication that this is definitely coming like this year.
Right.
But it's probably coming this year. Huh? Who knows?
Kuba is pointing to a theoretical release potentially of the hardware event later on this year.
I'll tell you,
who knows?
They're not actually sure of that. I'm pretty sure they're they're just guessing like I am.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's kind of like, yeah, it could happen at the hardware event. A lot of things could happen at the hardware event. We could see a foldable, but we could also not see a foldable. I guess what just all remains to be seen with things like this. All I know is that I love, like, when I hear fast pair, like more things tapping into fast pair. That puts a little smile on my face because my experience with fast pair is very positive. In the few times that I've had a pair of earbuds and I want to, I open up the thing and boop, I get that little graphic, I get that little toast message that says, hey, these earbuds can pair easily. Just tap here and you do it, and boom. It all happens.
The first time you use fast pair, it like, to your point, it is magic, Jason. It feels so like, it's like, how did we ever live without this?
Yeah, because it was so painful before, and now it's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I loved seeing that this would be kind of part of that. Hopefully that means that the tracker experience would be as good, on the same level of an enjoyable experience as just the simple act of pairing some earbuds to a phone. At the same time, you bring up a good point, Ron, which is there are a lot of not so great uses for things like trackers that, but I mean, I guess these things are nothing new. They've been around for a long time. It's just now those networks are hyper powered. The problem with like Tracker, the product that, sponsored on this network many years ago, was that the network was very small. Like, yes, if another Tracker user came in, close to the Tracker that you lost, it would register with the app. But how many Tracker users are there? You'd be really lucky that if one actually happened across yours. When you're talking about, all Android devices and this is the same way with Apple's iPhones and AirTags, right? You just got this massive network that now taps into it, which supercharges it, makes it super powerful, but also kind of increases the nefariousness, the potential of something like that as well. So,
yeah. So
just like that scene in The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. Yeah, that was like the nightmare realized, but. And just to follow up on the where are they now with the former sponsor of the show, Tracker, looked it up on Wikipedia, and in fact, in 2018 they rebranded themselves as Adaro, and they changed their focus to other uses for tracking technology, like taking Tracker beyond Bluetooth fobs that have been the core of the service. And they shut down the Tracker service and removed apps in August 2021. And currently, the Adaro website, adaro.com, is giving back a 404. So looks like they did not make it.
Oh, pour one out for Tracker.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
Well, if we want to talk about something that Kuba leaked that has less ethical / criminal implications or bad press, and in fact actually has a lot of good press, especially on this show and this show's lovely listeners and viewers. Kuba also posted pics of the next TicWatch. So there has been much love for Mobvoi's TicWatches. I believe, Michelle, you have you rock a TicWatch, right?
He's got a TicWatch.
There it is. Yes. And we've gotten tons of love, through your feedback about the Mobvoi TicWatches as a very affordable and very effective, alternative to the smartwatch landscape. So Mobvoi did kind of sent out a little teaser for like their next watch, which has this like really kind of sexy, textured like face rim. But Kuba has a few more interesting details that we can go ahead and kind of ponder on for a little bit for the next TicWatch, which would be the TicWatch Pro 5, by the way, and the TicWatch 5 and the TicWatch Pro 5. So presumably this would be one of the first wearables to ship with the Snapdragon W5 Plus and with Wear OS 3. And thanks to the Snapdragon W5 Plus, it would probably have about 50% longer battery life, as that is one of the benefits of this newer chipset. Something that's kind of interesting is that in terms of like user experience, more or less, is that the TicWatch 5 Pro, TicWatch Pro, I'm reversing the numbers and the words. TicWatch Pro 5 will have one crown as opposed to the previous design, the TicWatch Pro 3, which has two of them. And Yeah, I mean, I've definitely kind of really thought about the TicWatch, given all like the really like satisfied TicWatch users on the show and that listen to the show. So I guess we'll have to see what the final Pro 5 looks at. I don't know, Michelle, are you excited for what's coming from the TicWatch line? Gonna pick you up a 5?
I'm hoping they keep the dual display that was featured in the previous TicWatch Pros. That like extends the battery life significantly because you have a much lower power display that your watch enters whenever you're not actively looking at it or you're flipping it around. And yeah, if they keep that, I'm definitely going to get the Pro 5. And maybe if they also commit to a better software update schedule.
That was going to be my question to you, Michelle, because when I was putting this together, I was kind of reading some of the articles, and then I always like to go into the comments, even though you never know what you're going to get in the comments. But a lot of feedback from people that were responding to this news or this information, a lot of people had some pretty harsh words to say about the software update cycle, saying the watches are amazing, the hardware is amazing. There's so much great about this watch. If they could only do software updates the way they should. And so explain your viewpoint on that. How does that hinder the watch in your eyes? Because I imagine you value getting software updates.
Right. Well, I mean, like if I check the update status on my watch right now, it says up to date, even though it's running the October 1st, 2021 security patch. That tells you how bad it is. But I mean, it's a watch, so I don't really mind as much.
Right. Yeah.
But still, yeah, like, and that's one problem. The second problem is their promises they already made was that they promised that their watches with the Snapdragon Wear 4100 would get Wear OS 3 update, and that still hasn't been delivered yet. So you can see other manufacturers like Fossil, they have delivered Wear OS 3 for their compatible smartwatches, but we're still waiting on like when's the update coming to the TicWatches.
Yeah, the Wear OS waiting game continues. I think I saw a headline on Android Central from Derek Lee. I'm wary of this Wear OS waiting game.
Nice.
We've just been waiting too long.
Oh, dear.
Anyways, sorry about that. And finally, Google Stadia. Yes, it's done as of January 18th, so end of last week. I don't think this was in the show last week. But I think it's important to note we can listen to a little bit of this while I talk. It's fine. It's applicable. Stadia. Goodbye. However, if you had Stadia and you got one of those fancy controllers, you would know that it's a pretty darn nice controller. And it was more or less, it was really locked to Stadia for a few different reasons. Well, now Google has given people who own these controllers what they have been asking for ever since they found out that Stadia was going under. Open up Bluetooth capability so that this controller can be used in any other, Bluetooth controller faculty. So on a computer, on a smartphone, or whatever, Google finally, along with the announcement that Stadia is done for good, said, okay, here's a site. This will open up your controller. This will allow you to use that controller in Bluetooth mode for anything else that you want to use it for. So,
how benevolent of them.
Yeah. Hey, it's better than a great controller that ends up in a landfill or displayed on a display because it's rare. I don't know what the alternative is, but. So if you got one of those controllers, you can open it up and continue using it again. And you probably want to. It's a pretty nice controller. So.
That was one of the things about Stadia, that the hardware was nice. It was a good controller.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Up next, we got some app news for you. But first, let's take a quick break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, brought to you by Tanium. The industry's approach to cybersecurity, well, it's fundamentally flawed. IT management and security point tools, they only offer a small piece of the solution that's needed to protect your environment. Many of them actually promise that they can stop all breaches when let's be real, they just simply cannot do that. Making decisions based on stale data and then trying to defend your critical assets from cyber attacks with tools that don't talk to each other, that's no way for IT teams to navigate today's attack surface, which, as you know, is incredibly complex. Well, it's time for a different approach. Tanium says it's time for a convergence of tools, endpoints, and IT operations and security. So they have solutions for government entities, for education, financial services, retail, healthcare, and you can trust their solutions for every workflow that actually relies on endpoint data. You can track down every IT asset you own instantly. You can find and fix vulnerabilities at scale and do it in seconds, no less. You can hunt for sophisticated adversaries in real time, automate operations from discovery to management, and you can even index and monitor sensitive data globally in seconds. Tanium protects organizations where other endpoint management and security providers have failed. They have the single platform that I spoke about. Tanium actually uses that to identify where all your data is across your entire IT estate. It patches every device you own in seconds and then implements critical security controls all from a single pane of glass. It makes it easy. And as you know, like you've heard multiple times in this read, in seconds, right? This stuff happens fast. And that's so important when you're talking about security. Kevin Bush, the vice president of IT at Ring Power Core, says Tanium brings visibility to one screen for our whole team. If you don't have that kind of visibility, you're not going to be able to sleep at night. So there you go. Take it from Kevin. With real-time data comes real-time impact. If you're ready to unite operations and security teams with a single source of truth and confidently protect your organization from cyber threats, it's time that you met Tanium. Check it out for yourself. You can learn more. Just go to tanium.com/twit. That's Tanium, Tanium, Tanium.com/twit. And we thank Tanium for their support, their continued support of All About Android. All right. We've got some app news for you coming at you right now. There we go, I think. Yeah, okay. And enjoy all of these outdated icons in our apps bumper.
It's my favorite thing about the apps. It's my favorite thing about this. It's a trip down memory lane every time we do it.
It's not outdated. It's just nostalgia. It's just remembering when, 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago on Android.
When Blogger was an active app.
when app icons used to have a bit of uniqueness to them, and now they're all the same.
Yeah, now they're all exactly the same.
Exactly. So anytime any convo's going on about Google Messages, I'm there. And Mishal, I couldn't help but notice that you tweeted out that Google Messages is starting to roll out support for having up to 100 members in an end-to-end encrypted group chat. What's the skinny here? What's going on with encryption, end-to-end encryption on Google Messages?
It's pretty much exactly as what you just said. You can now have, at least some users in the beta program of the Google Messages app are noticing that they can add up to 100 members in an end-to-end encrypted group chat. So the previous limit was 21. Google confirmed to 9to5Google that 21 member limit was intentional when the group end-to-end encrypted group chat first rolled out to users on the beta program early last month. And now some users are noticing that limit has quietly been raised to 100 users. It hasn't been formally announced, like Google hasn't formally said, hey, we raised the limit to 100, but some users are noticing that, you can now do this.
That sounds horrifying, 100 people in a group chat.
Not all chatting
it's pretty
at once,
common
Ron.
in if you want to make it like a proper Telegram signal, WhatsApp competitor, then you got to have bigger group chats.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm just joking, but it's nice to see that encryption is there at that scale, that size. So that does require everyone to be using Google Messages, though, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And you got to have that little chat thing turned on.
Yep.
Also, Mishal, on the app beat, the Clock app. I guess customization's coming to the Clock app. I never knew that I wanted to record my own alarm, which actually, hasn't it been possible? I guess you could just
you can
drop a file
it's like
in.
a ringtone.
Yeah,
it's just a ringtone.
Yeah, you can
right?
just add your own ringtone.
Oh, okay.
All this added like I don't know why it got so much press. All they added was a button that opens the Google Recorder app to let you record an audio file, and then that gets imported into the clock app automatically.
So it's like a sampler.
Like, it just saves you. It saves you like 2 steps, maybe. It's something you could already do. Yeah, it just opens
it's an
the
alarm
recorder
clock
app.
sampler is what it is now. And when I think of it that way, now I think it's kind of cool. So I don't have to do all the nerdy stuff behind the scenes and import a ringtone, save it to my. It's exactly the same, except in this way, it's like using your microphone to record the door closing. I want to wake up to the sound of my door closing.
You're gonna use that awesome Android mic to record it.
Yes, that high definition Android mic.
The only caveat to this is that for some reason it's exclusive to Pixel phones because like they hard coded it to explicitly launch the Google Recorder app, and the Google Recorder app is only available officially on Pixel devices. I don't know if that's actually changed with the most recent Google Clock 7.4 update that's also rolling out, which I guess we'll talk about now. So Android Police reported that Google Clock 7.4 changes the way the the snooze and the dismiss buttons look when you are going to dismiss or action on an alarm. So normally before the 7.4 update, when you go to snooze or dismiss an alarm, you have like a little slider. You got to like put your finger on the middle and then slide left or right. Now in Google Clock 7.4, those actions are now buttons. But for some reason, this is actually tied to whether or not you have any accessibility services enabled. So if you have an accessibility service enabled, then I believe you have the slider interface. And if you turn them off, then you have the buttons, or it's the other way around. I might have just gotten them confused. But check out that Android Police article. They cover how to fix the change if you find that annoying after updating.
Okay. I don't really use the Google Clock for my alarm clock. I use Sleep as Android for whatever reason. I don't know why.
I use the Google
that.
Clock. I don't
too.
set an alarm anymore. My child runs in and wakes me up every morning, but I use it for timers and things like that. I think it's a very handy little app.
Yeah, I use it for timers. I just don't use it as my alarm clock. Sleep as Android. Which, by the way, since we're on this alarm clock tangent, I have tried activating the snore detection. Did I already talk about this on the show? Yes, we already talked about snore detection.
We talked about snore detection, and it's the most horrifying aspect of my phone, and I hate it. But what about you? What's your experience been?
I'm amazed. I snore a lot.
I don't think it's real. I don't believe it, to be honest. But
I mean,
we had some listener feedback that was very worried.
That's right. That's right. We did talk about this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was a week away, and I had a brain fart that we actually talked about that.
We should come back to talk about it though. If we all are having, either us or our spouses continue to have snoring issues, we should continue to talk about it.
What I find interesting is it detecting me or my wife, because we're both in the same room, right? Like it's like that sort of thing. And secondarily, like we've been together, Jesus, now it's 7 going on 8 years or whatever. Like she's never complained about me snoring. I've never complained about her snoring. Someone's snoring, right? So like it's just according to this thing, but like I don't think does everyone snore to a certain degree? I don't know. We could do a whole podcast on snoring, all about snoring. But yeah,
my wife definitely does not snore to any degree. I know that I snore because sometimes I wake up and like my throat is kind of sore from snoring, like a snore throat. I don't know if that's
snore throat.
And my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, she actually snores sometimes too. So sometimes I look at the data and I'm like, that's not me, that's her. Blame my daughter for the snoring.
Well, you know what else? If we can hit the snooze button for, is Google Podcasts, and not because it needs some more sleep, but because in the near future, Burke might have to be warming up that tabs button again. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah,
not yet.
No. Take the finger off the button, Burke. Okay.
Take it off. And Corey Ogden over at Killed by Google website, don't warm up that post just yet, but it's not looking great for Google Podcasts. So, Google Podcasts was doing real good in 2020. had a lot of work on it, work done with it, redesigned mobile app, that whole experience where you could like listen to a podcast on your desktop and then seamlessly move to your phone, and then, with Google Assistant, all that stuff. But, since then, not a lot has gone on with it. In fact, I think it's been, let's see, I looked this up. It's been since August 2022 that this wonderful, fully featured 4.6 star on the Play Store app has gotten an update.
Jeez.
And it's been a while. That's a long time. And Pod News also reports that podcasts no longer appear in search results. So if you do like a Google search for, some podcasts before, Google using their Googly magic would have highlighted podcast episode results with, a very specific format as well as a play button, which would directly launch Google Podcasts. Well, that is no more. They've reverted to just plain old search results. And, Google said this was intentional with a very googly message of, quote, "We're constantly experimenting with ways to improve the experience for our users," which, I don't know, might include just, shunting podcast functionality over to YouTube. Because as some folks might recall, in late 2021, there was some news that YouTube didn't want to just take over the music game. They wanted to take over the podcast game too. So... related?
And I mean, if it is related, which it could be, like Google Play Music, YouTube Music, like all the stuff that we went through. I mean, YouTube is definitely making a play for audio, in terms of seeing, the opportunity there, acknowledging that people listen to podcasts and listen to like ambient music and noise and stuff like that on YouTube all the time. But I just, like the stuff they're doing to support, like go to youtube.com/podcasts, and it's just like a collection of Joe Rogan. It's just like, it's weird. It's not done in a way that is true to what podcasts are. And it's just immensely frustrating. And this is just sad.
I didn't even know that youtube.com/podcasts was a thing.
Yep, that's their hub for like youtube.com/live, right? youtube.com/podcast is where they're collecting all the podcasts all there, and it's all like, I mean, I don't know. It's just video. It's just video podcast like this show. I mean, like honestly, Twitch should be on here, to be honest.
I was going to say, I bet you we don't show up on this page.
Yeah. But it's a lot of movies and games and finance and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, but
we do.
Oh, do you? Nice.
Yeah. Well, Ask the Tech Guys is up there.
Cool.
Oh, Lord.
We told you to take your finger off the button, Burke.
Stop. Not yet.
You put your finger back on the button. It's just not time yet, okay? Let's not make this happen. Although I don't use Google Podcasts, so there's that.
True. Well, it's not good. That's why. That's why you don't use it.
I use.
Is it
Who
weird
uses
that
it?
YouTube? I don't.
Sorry, Huen, go. You go.
No. Go. But is it kind of funny that, YouTube, obviously, the video platform, is doing just fine. We're not going to be hitting the button for that, Lord knows when. But is it funny that so much of this, like other content that eventually does end up needing taps and does end up being killed by Google starts to kind of migrate over to YouTube? It's kind of like that movie In Bruges or something. It's like YouTube is Bruges, and then all these little like Google apps and Google functionality just go there to kind of meander for a little bit before they end up on killed by Google. And Burke hits the button for them. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know why YouTube has to be everything.
Yeah. Honestly, it makes sense. I feel like they should have done this from the beginning instead of Google Podcasts being an independent thing. Like, how does Google make money from Google Podcasts? Like, it being on YouTube, I can understand, because they already have this
the ad network,
huge successful ad business and YouTube Premium they're trying to sell you.
It's fair.
Like, what do they get out of Google Podcasts? Like, I don't actually see anything for Google.
It's a good question. Yeah,
fair question.
I was always really kind of found because you remember the big podcast news, and actually I think we had someone on from Google to talk about it, didn't we? About the podcast effort at some point. Maybe my memory is incorrect these days. I wouldn't be surprised, but about the kind of integration with search and the potential of making every recorded podcast like searchable top to bottom, right? Like Google has this great ability to, and has for very long, to transcribe audio pretty effortlessly at this point. And so to make podcasts fully searchable, and then Google as a search product is incredibly, supercharged by all of this content that once was just, you only heard it if you knew about it. And now it's fully accessible to everyone through a simple search. And I just don't feel like it delivered on, I don't know if that was necessarily a promise, but that was the idea that I had based on news that they were talking about, 3 years ago, as far as what Google Podcasts could be. And it's just kind of a bummer if they give up on that, because I thought that was really powerful. Although now that I'm talking about this, I'm also realizing there was a story that was going to be early on in the rundown, but we didn't have time for it in the top news, about Google being really nervous about their competition with artificial intelligence apps like ChatGPT. And so maybe, this seems like one of those things that would be really great for a search engine, to have these podcasts infinitely searchable, but their attention isn't there. Their attention right now is, how can we do what the ChatGPT people are doing to supercharge our search in a completely different way, which is, integrate these chatbots that tell you what you want to know, instead of, searching inside of podcasts and giving you direct access to that content. So they've got a lot on their plate right now. Google does.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is time to pass the mic over to J.R.A. Field from Android Intelligence. He has a search alternative that he wants to show us. Take it away, J.R.
Hey, all right. Today I want to talk about search. These days we've got tons of different places to track down information. And let's be honest, Google's great at a lot of things, but sometimes it's easier to find what you need elsewhere. Whether that's Reddit, Wikipedia, I don't know, maybe even TikTok. That's still a thing, right? With that in mind, I've got just the thing for you. It's a whole new approach to online searching, and yet it's delightfully familiar at the same time. Allow me to introduce you to a clever little site called Swirl. Swirl, that's SWURL for anyone who's listening. Swirl isn't a search engine exactly. It's more like a search portal. It lets you dig through lots of different places you already know in a single nicely designed spot. And the site's main page is super minimal. It's just a plain box, basically. Not much else around it. And you use that box to type in whatever you want to search for. Imagine that, right? But check this out now. A second later, Swirl shows you regular Google search results alongside results from Google News, Wikipedia, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok. The list just keeps going and going. The idea is that everything you could possibly need is right there in front of you on a single page. When you want to move from one source to another, you just swipe horizontally on your screen or tap the appropriate icon at the top to jump directly where you want to go. All the columns have infinite scrolling too, so you can dive as deep as you need into any of the results without ever having to click on a second page or peck at a pesky load more button. Pretty nifty, isn't it? Swirl's completely free to use for the moment too. The company behind it describes the site as a design experiment, doesn't sell any user data or have any especially troubling terms in its privacy policy or anything like that. You can check out Swirl for yourself by pulling up the service's website in any browser on any device, phone, computer, electric donkey, whatever. It's Swirl, SWURL.com. We'll throw a link into this week's show notes for you too. And hey, while we're talking about websites worth visiting, be sure to make your way over to my little corner of the internodes while you're at it and sign up for my Android Intelligence newsletter. You'll get 3 new things to try in your inbox every Friday, straight from me to you. No cost, no catch. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to get started. If you haven't already, that's androidintel.net/twit. That's all for now. I'll see you back here next week for even more googly goodness.
Googly goodness. Swirl. I'd never heard of Swirl. It really looks like TweetDeck, but for search engines.
Yeah.
Kind of has a TweetDeck quality to it. That's cool.
And I feel like we couldn't move on without calling out JR for the fantastic T-shirt selection this week. For our audio listeners, you got to watch the video to see JR sporting a T-shirt with Clippy from the olden Microsoft days. Clippy, the handy paperclip. So bravo.
The paperclip we love to hate. There's
Come
Clippy.
for the Android Intelligence Day for the fabulous T-shirts.
Yes. I mean, hey, week after week he delivers as far as the T-shirts are concerned. I'm wondering when we're going to start to get repeats.
Strong T-shirt game.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that brings us to our final sponsor of the evening, and we want to thank the fine folks at HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW, for bringing this episode of All About Android to your listening ears. Because listen, the people at CDW understand that your organization needs simple management over its big data. But with workloads remaining on-prem due to legacy systems, it can feel challenging to organize and optimize your data. And that's where CDW can help your organization by consolidating and managing all your data in one flexible, unified experience with HPE GreenLake Edge-to-Cloud platform. The experience you'll get with HPE GreenLake is unique because no matter where your data or applications live, you can free up energy and resources with automated processes and streamlined management. And we could all use a little more streamlined things, right? I could use a little more streamlined things. So could you, especially with technology. Not only that, HPE GreenLake creates a seamless cloud experience among multiple data environments thanks to the as-a-service model that meets your remote workforce at the edge. And with unrivaled scalability, you'll see an instant increase in capacity, allowing for greater flexibility and accelerated business growth so your team can tackle bigger priorities like innovation, like you should be. You're in business, you should be innovating, and they'll help you do that. So when it comes to streamlined management, HPE makes data transformation possible, CDW makes it powerful. And you can learn more at cdw.com/HPE. And we thank them for supporting All About Android. The fine folks at HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. Thank you, our good friends. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you. That's right, you. If you wrote an email to AAA@twit.tv, thank you. If you sent a voicemail to 347-SHOW-AAA, thank you for that too, although we don't get very many of those. Anyways, Ken wrote into AAA@twit.tv to say, longtime listener here from Singapore. I'm originally a OnePlus user, before that a Nexus owner. My previous two phones were the original Nord and the Nord CE. Both were exceptional devices until they got updated to the latest Color OS. This annoyed me and forced me to change the Nord to the nothing phone. I'm still using the CE though. The Color OS is just terrible to use, especially when they removed the app drawer, or as Ron likes to say, the app draw, search function where I can immediately type to search for apps without having to tap my fingers at the top of the screen to type and search. I still use the CE because its battery is so good, can easily last me 2 days when I just use it for reading. Not bad. Anyway, that's my rant about the downfall of OnePlus. If you would like to know more about anything related to the Android market here in Singapore or Malaysia, you can ask me anytime. Have a great day, and thank you for a great podcast, says Ken. Thank you for writing in. Love to hear about that. And we might just have to reach out to you with our Singapore and Malaysia beat coverage. You might hear from us, Ken. There you go. Color OS, not a fan. I don't know, didn't really bug me that much, but it really does. It's very visceral for some people. The OnePlus UI change.
Oh,
It's like the blue people in Avatar. People really react to it.
uncanny valley of UI. There you go. I should write a paper on this. That'd be a great idea.
There you go.
I'll credit you, Ron. Or Angie.
I take no responsibility for my pronunciation of draw, by the way. I just can't even do it with my mouth. It's very disturbing.
Say water.
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 So anyway, let's not play with my Long Island accent.
Okay. All right. That's for post show.
Our next email comes from a friend of the show named Mike, who says, I came across a nothing phone in the wild in Dubai. I have a limited picture since I saw it in the hands of a clerk in a liquor store, and it's a bit of a touchy subject here. I also noticed a giant billboard across the street from me on the main highway. I'm not sure when it'll make it to the U.S., but they're investing here. Love the show, Mike. And good job, Mike, in spotting it in the wild, of all places, a liquor store in Dubai. That's kind of
liquor store in Dubai.
Talk about needle in a haystack. Right?
Yeah, we got a photo there. I don't know if you saw that, Burke, but we do. We have a photo. In case you don't believe him, we have photographic evidence from the liquor store. No, it definitely does not look like a liquor store. That countertop is not liquor store quality countertop. But it's a touchy subject. Still got a photo of it.
Yeah.
looking like.
And I'm not surprised at all to hear that they're investing in Dubai, like with advertising stuff. Like that's where money is, and it's a different region and all that sort of stuff. And as complicated as Dubai might be from a marketplace, it's the U.S. has got to be way more complicated with all the carriers and all the Apple and Google and all that sort of stuff. So it makes sense that they're kind of getting established in places like Dubai. Yeah, so especially with their design aesthetic and price point. So.
Yeah, the hipness and the kind of, it's a mid-range phone, but it still has like a certain set of status and like sort of exclusivity and kind of hipness to it. So it makes a lot of sense.
You got to be in the know to know about this phone, which I think I'm realizing as we're talking about like this particular phone being seen in the wild. Like, I almost think, like, different phones have different scores. It could be a game. It could be, like, the smartphone in the wild game. And every time you see an iPhone, it's, like, negative points because you're just so used to seeing them. Same for Samsung phones. But if you see a nothing phone out in the wild, that's like you get 100 points for that. That's like a high-scoring item.
I saw a Windows phone in the wild once.
Oh, my gosh. That's like...
Yeah, it was right.
What is...
Our back... Someone that was actually... in our alley in the old place, like somebody who worked across the alley from us.
Yeah.
Like that was super random.
Yeah.
Well, it's like how excited I got when I saw a Samsung Foldable a couple of years on the subway in New York. I was like, somebody's actually using it. Like, this is great. Yeah. So,
yeah, that'd be like 40 points. Nothing phone, I feel like, is 100 because, like,
and also who
knows about the Nothing phone? And then
it's scaling because I feel like the time that I saw the Foldable, it would have been worth more points because it was earlier in the life cycle, right? It was more rare, where now it's a little more common. Yeah. So,
there's a game here. I think there's
totally
a game to be found
absolutely.
here.
Oh,
absolutely.
well, and then, Flo and I could start a little kind of side hustle where we just walk around with our foldables if someone needs some points. Oh, why do I go in this direction with it?
Oh, wow.
You're taking the result.
I'm like hustling. Sorry,
you're the hustler. Yeah, you're the foldable phone hustler. You're like, yeah. So you want that photographic evidence that you ran across organically this foldable phone on the street? It's going to cost you. I'm sorry.
I'll have to get some extra cases and stuff just to disguise my
If you were to play
issues.
this game, what city or area do you think would be the best place to win? Like if you were counting, how many unique phones can I spot on the street? Which city do you think would be the best place to play this game?
It's got to be San Francisco.
Yeah,
my bet is Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah. Internationally, yeah. Shenzhen, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to open this up worldwide, yes, and I think you're absolutely right.
Because now that you brought that up, I feel like maybe Alex Gumpel was like a plant, like he sort of maybe he gave this Windows phone to the lady across the street and like staged the whole thing.
Could be. Alex Gumpel was the hustler then, and you had no idea. You had no idea, Bert. Whew. This game is going to be off the hook.
There's legs to it.
There's legs. Anyone who wants to help us develop it, AAA@twit.tv. Let us know. That's almost too much to manage, actually.
Too much.
Develop it for us, and then let us know what you come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it. All right, Wynn, you got the last one.
All right. Well, it is now time for the email of the week. And the email of the week is from Bhavneet Singh. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to kind of appeal to Google's sensibilities in terms of like feature requests. So Bhavneet writes us saying, I bought the Pixel 7 and a Galaxy Watch 5 in October, just an upgrade. After purchasing, I was very happy with both of them. But after using them, I felt like they have some essential features missing, like a better split screen mode in Pixel UI or some sort of TV remote app and podcast app in Wear OS. But I don't know where to request these new features from Android development team except the AAA podcast or Twitter. Do you guys have any suggestions where the Android community can post new features, ideas to Google and Android development team and have them, see it? Because nowadays you cannot trust Twitter to do it. And please don't say Google Pixel Community Help Center.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can send feedback through the Google app. The problem here is
I don't know.
There's no real great way to send this sort of feedback to Google. I feel like the few times that we've had someone from Google on the show, and I've mentioned or one of us has mentioned, would be a good idea, blah, blah, blah. They always make some like smart ass comment of like, oh, it's a feature request time or something like that. Like I don't know that they really care a whole lot about these ideas that we have. They've got their own thing going on, but you can send feedback through the Google app. It's in there. Just open up the Google app and there's like a send feedback section. But I kind of feel like you're just dropping mail into a bucket that's never going to be read. But I could be wrong.
So,
yeah.
To actually answer the question, I do have an idea. I think the best way that the average user could actually get their feedback eventually read by a Googler who can actually eventually take action on it is the Google issue tracker. Or if you're on the Android beta program, one of the Android releases, it's the feedback app.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
The issue tracker is like a really, really outdated, like clunky UI. But if you actually submit something there and it gets starred enough, and then one of the people who goes through and triages the bugs, like eventually decides they'll take this on, you might get lucky, and they might actually decide we'll implement this in a future release. So like for example,
there's a lot that has to go your way in order for that to happen, though. Let's be honest.
Yes, yeah. It's there's no guarantee it gets read. Honestly, like it's not a good way, but the best bet is literally like if you have a big enough social media following, and if you have Googlers follow you, just like tag a few Googlers, say, please do this.
Yeah,
because they can bypass that internally and say like we should do this.
Yeah.
I hesitate to encourage that though, because someone randomly tagging you is a little bit difficult. But I mean, that's not to say like a valid idea, I think is a valid idea. And I 100% concur with Michelle that it's kind of like critical mass. Like if you create a suggestion and like, if you get like 1,000 stars on the issue tracker, or if you use the Bird site or Mastodon and you get like a ton you get like an exorbitant amount of boosts or likes or reposts of what have you, that means something. But I kind of agree. Like I feel like as a developer, I benefit because the Android development team is kind of more like super like I think in tune to like the developer community, because like part of the platform success is, I mean, obviously from the users too, but also like the apps as well. There's a little bit more of a direct line with us. And it's really hard for like users requesting features to kind of cut through. Cause I mean, like to be fair to Google and Android with, 3 billion active devices, they probably get the signal to noise ratio is not good. So I think, trying to get in a place that is public where you can get people kind of chiming in like a legitimate way helps. That being said, I agree. It's not easy for like a user to request features or just generic feature development. So yeah.
Don't beg people, please. Don't go tagging random people on social media and ask.
And don't tag like 12 people in the same thing.
They're not going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. The eyes will glaze over on something like that. But I do appreciate that that you, and you're not alone, Bhavni, but that you feel that having us read the features that you want on the show will make an impact. I don't know that it will, but I definitely get these emails from time to time. Can you please tell Google? Whoa, my audio just totally canceled out. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Weird. I think I unplugged something when I hit the table.
Well done.
There is one more thing I would like to add to that.
Yeah.
And it's if you have, a good enough idea and you articulate it well enough and you post it on like Reddit, or you send a tip to like Android Police or Android Central or one of these big news sites and they publish an article on it, there's a decent chance that someone, within Google
there you go.
will share it around. Like, you're not going to know that they're actually reading this stuff. You're not going to know that they've actually taken your feedback into account, but there's a chance that work. Like they might say, hey, look at this artitle. We think this is a good idea. Let's
there you go.
You wouldn't know until the next release, until like 8 months later, they actually decided to do it, but it could work. It has worked before. You only know about it until like 10 months later.
Yes, right, right.
Yeah, Hundo Pay, like credibility and also like volume / critical mass / not entropy, the other thing. What is the thing that makes things go shoot?
Lots
not
of people.
velocity.
I don't know. Lots
of people. There you go. We'll call lots of people. I'm gonna think about it after the show and be mad. Huh? Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm thinking of a physics term. We like
critical
when
mass.
something gets going.
Critical mass.
Okay, whatever. But no, I agree. It's really difficult. But I yes. If for what it's worth, yeah, listen to Michelle. That's probably the best way. And it's unfortunate because it's more of like a volume issue, especially with Google Android, because the volume is so big. I mean, I would encourage anyone, like for your day-to-day apps where your the developer team might be like less than 100, a few dozen people, a handful of people, that reaching out to them works. It's just, I think, to be fair to an organization that's really, really large, it's really hard to filter that from like spam, trolls, and other stuff like that. So they do care. I really do feel like they care, but it's just hard to filter it out.
Yeah.
So yes,
the amount of feedback that they probably get is just insanity.
It's difficult.
So how do you get your feature request read or taken seriously or any of these things? And there is no right answer for that. But yeah, that's a couple of strategies. I don't know if any of that is helpful, Bavneet, but there you go.
Momentum. That's what I meant to say.
There we go.
And for getting this great discussion on momentum going, and for reminding Win what the physics term was. That's why, Bavneet, you're our email of the week.
There we go. And with that, we have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. Always so much fun. Michelle, I want to throw it over to you first because you posted on Twitter yesterday some news, and I don't want to be the one to announce it, but what do you want people to know right now?
Yeah, Jason, unfortunately, there's massive layoffs everywhere across the whole tech industry. And at my own company, Esper, I was involved in a layoff. And so I'm not fully out of a job. I'm like now reduced hours as a contractor, but that does mean I'm looking for additional work or potentially a full-time, employment contract somewhere else. So if you're looking for someone who really knows Android, AOSP, Android ecosystem, etc., like how to navigate all those waters, someone who really knows, how to work with Android, I'm your guy. Contact me at Michelle Rahman on all the different social media platforms, Twitter, Mastodon, Reddit, etc. So yeah, please reach out if you have, if you're interested in hiring me.
All you really have to do is go read Michelle's expansive work at Esper, yes, of course, but for many years at XDA to know, and I mean, very active like in places like Twitter and Reddit, like you said. But if you find his posts, I mean, this dude is so damn smart. So I don't think it's gonna be long for you. But I realize I'm just sorry. I hate knowing that people are getting laid off right now, and it sucks to have it hit so close to home, and I'm just really sorry that happened, Michelle. And I really hope that you find something quickly. So I hope that we can give you at least a little bit of exposure to help that happen faster too. So there you go.
Every transition is an opportunity. That's
true,
Michelle. And and I'm confident you'll land somewhere that'll be even better, and it'll be good, and get to do even more. Right. So
there you go. There you go. Well, Michelle, we love having you on this show and offering your insight and your knowledge to the show when we can get you on. So thank you for hopping on today and into the future. And keep us posted. Let us know how the job search is going. We'll do our very best to help you out. Win, what you got going on?
Well, I just want to say that I am an Android dev. I am actually a very senior / staff level engineer. And I think that Michelle's knowledge, content, and ability to make connections about what's going on in Android is super valuable for consumers and people like me. I have been linking a lot of Michelle's content to my former coworkers and current coworkers because it's that valuable and that in-depth and that insightful. So yes, I just want to say that, put that out there. And yeah. It's like, that's my day job. And Michelle makes my day job easier, especially communicating what's happening in Android. So that's what I want people to know. And you can find me, if you feel like it, on randomlytyping.com. I sometimes talk about Android stuff there. And you can find me On other places, at Queen Code Monkey. If you're on Mastodon, I'm currently at Queen Code Monkey at mastodon.social. That might change, but that's where you can find me for now. And that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Win. It's good to see you. Also good to see you, Ron Richards.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you can. I realized I didn't give Burke my my link for my plug, and I'm sorry. I was too busy doing the show, so I'm going to vamp a little while I pull up a link to send to Burke. But yeah, you can follow me over at RonXO on Twitter and over on Instagram, where I'm posting nonsense periodically every now and then. But also want to give a quick plug and shout out to Scorebit, which is my fun little startup that me and a couple friends of mine have around pinball. Go to scorebit.io or look for Scorebit in the Google Play Store. We released a major update to the mobile app last week. Version 1.3 came out. Now make it a lot easier to auto-claim your scores when you're playing a pinball game on a Scorebit-enabled machine. Better follower notifications. You can scan your contacts to find people who are in the app. A lot of cool stuff in there. So that's a photo for our video viewers. There's a photo from Indisc, which was the big tournament that happened in Riverside, California earlier this month, where we were Scorebit was actively keeping track of scores. Yeah, so fun time. So yeah, go to Google Play Store, download the app, check it out. And my hat's off to Huyn and all other app developers, because it is very, very hard. And we're finding that out the easy way, also the hard way. But we're doing the best we can to make the best app we can. So hope if you like playing pinball, go check it out. So
right on. Scorebit.io. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah. In the Google Play Store.
In the Google Play Store. Where else would it be? You already know to check the Play Store, so go there and check it out. Thanks once again to J.R. Raphael, Android Intelligence, of course, and all of his awesome tips. Thank you to Burke, behind the scenes and sometimes talking on the show. You hear his voice from time to time. Also, thank you to Victor, behind the scenes. You don't hear his voice very much because he's not here right now, but he does the production. That's not Victor. That's somebody else. I can't remember his name, but he's really hairy. Victor, on the other hand, he is at home. He does the kind of the post-production work for this show and turns out the podcast. So you can thank Victor for the fact that it downloads to your device when you're subscribed. So make sure that you're subscribed. twit.tv/AAA. As for me, you know, I'm on. I'm still on the Bird site at Jason Howell, but I'm also on Mastodon, twit.social/@JasonHowell. I was gone for a week, so I've been very, very out of the social thing. So now that I'm back to work, maybe I'll post a few things. I don't know. I'm so out of the habit at this point. It's hard to get that engine running again. And I also do another show with Micah Sargent every Thursday called Tech News Weekly. So twit.tv/TNW. We have a lot of really great interviews with people in the technology industry about some of the biggest news stories that are happening each week. So check it out. Don't forget Club Twit. This is, in many ways, this is kind of, heading into 2023 where there's a lot of uncertainty like we've been talking about on the show, layoffs happening at technology companies and everything, sponsorships, not as easy to come by. This is kind of our safety net, right? Club Twit is a way for you, if you are a big-time fan of what we do here, well, you can throw $7 a month our way, and you get access to an ad-free subscription tier for all of our shows, so no ads. You get access to exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed content, so tons of extra content from pre- and post-show material, of course, but also shows that you won't find outside of the club. And then you also get access to our members-only Discord. That's $7 a month. It really helps us out, especially now. So we're really happy we have this in place. People, people are really enjoying the club, and we just love that people are getting value out of it. So $7 a month for that. twit.tv/clubtwit. But that's it for this episode of All About Android. We do this show every Tuesday, so you get it Tuesday evening if you're subscribed. twit.tv/AAA to do that. And thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands On Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.